Okay, I sent out all the social media things, I think, that people can know I'm live. Okay, I don't know if there are still technical problems similar to the last time, but that's just it, I don't know. So what's the point in worrying about it? See, last time, like 3 weeks ago, I didn't really get into any of the actual drawing parts, which is fine. Mainly just talked about some philosophies I have for doing things like fan art. Since then, I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out Jinx's design. I haven't done anything like what I'm planning on doing today, which is a lot more stylized, something in the effect of the pixel drawings that I do, if you ever have seen those around. Something super stylized, which is something that I want to get back into doing more outside of the pixel stuff, because I've got a lot of ideas for the very stylized drawings that I might get into more later. But to review what we did last time, the main thing was we just looked at Jinx and tried to put together what the important parts of her are, things that need to be captured in our stylized version, because when you're simplifying things down, the things that'll make a character look like that character is by capturing the most important elements and distilling that down into simple recognizable shapes that make it easy for everyone to know that it's going to be Jinx in our case. So this big spike of hair here, the big shapes on her boots, the pigtails, these are the things that we found they put the most work into breaking her silhouette into something different and recognizable. Other than that, I mean, she's just kind of a short, skinny girl. So getting that vibe of just kind of as a whole who she is, and then just that short, skinny energy, and then have these distinct parts of her hair and these distinct shapes of her boots, and I think it'll be looking like her. So I think I'm going to hide all this, and the first thing that I like to do when I'm doing this stylized stuff is we start with shapes and we move on from there. So for her head, it's super easy just to start with a big circle. Something real stylized like this, a circle is just nice because it makes for a good head. And we can push it, pull it if we need to into other shapes. But I don't know if we will. I think for this design that I'm thinking of in my head, just a pretty basic circle will work pretty well. King said, Jinxler versus Jonkler, who'd win? That's a great question. It's one that I think about often. I gotta go with the Jinxler though, this time around. Starting with a big circle is good. And then I kind of try to find a boxier, smaller shape for the whole torso. Depending on who it is, it might have a little bit more of an hourglass or be more of a triangle, trapezoid. Either way, no matter what though, I don't really just want a basic square or rectangle that's just sitting there. I do want to find a directional shape that has some energy to it, because in these small hyper stylized character drawings, everything has to be communicating very effectively and have a lot of energy to it so that the whole character can feel like they've got that energy to them. So I don't go with a lot of very basic shapes. I mean, they're not complicated, but Yeah, I'm not just doing straight lines, square, putting it together very robotically. Because there's just not a ton of energy to this. I'm taking the ideas of these shapes and I'm trying to fit them into something that tells my story better. Here, these are shapes that I find myself working with pretty often in this sort of stylized thing. I do think her head, not even her head at this point, it's just the head, was way too big. Good one, Unfunny Tool. Classic. Anyone who's for whatever reason familiar with the RTWAC YouTube channel comment sections will know that user has some damn comments up his sleeve. Are we getting another Jinx skin unboxing? No, we won't. I don't even think anyone can donate to me right now. So I was gonna say, if you buy me one, I'll do it, but I don't think you can. I think I have to actually stream before that's a feature I can pull off. Which I'm not great at. I'm not great at actually streaming. Quite burnt out recently, which I'm sure is something that a lot of people can relate to always, but especially this time of year, it's a little harder, in my opinion, to feel normal. At this point in the process, I'm not really thinking about the actual specifics of the pose or anything. Really, what I'm looking at when trying to just put these lines on my paper is just shapes and proportions. I haven't done this sort of style in a while, really. So anytime I come back to drawing in a way that I haven't in a while, there's a period of rediscovery, which is fun. I like the idea of her having really lanky features. She's not a specifically tall character. She's actually super short. But she also has this dangerous animalistic quality to her, especially after she gets all shimmery, and a good way to capture that sort of wild energy is by making a character all lanky. What's that name? Sludgelmup? How's it going? Welcome. I don't think we want the head too big. I never know what to call this style of just doing hyper stylized work, because I don't really want to call it chibi, because it's not really that. Chibi in my head is a very specific thing that has a few, obviously, different ways that you can do it, but chibi in my head feels like this sort of thing. What I am doing, really, if I was going to categorize it, I think it's just like super deformed art, which is a word that I've used before that people have said may not be the best term to call it. Super deformed doesn't really have a positive ring to it. It's one that I think of because of growing up on Gundam. So, you know, the SD kits, if you've ever seen them. Those are super deformed. And so, I mean, that's really what we're doing, is we're capturing the human body in shapes that are pushed and pulled significantly into making something different. Dylan plushie when? Probably not anytime soon. Something that could be cool to do someday, of course. But do I have the means to right now? Not really. I've got other ways of selling things that I gotta get to first. Dylan's gotta get a U2s. That feels unlikely of ever happening. Big old eyes. There's some things about the flow and shape language of this that I'm not super in love with, but that's fine, because again, this is just a shape layout, and we can get the energy and we can get the pose in there afterward. Like these eyes don't feel specifically jinxy to me. I mean, she looks like a fucking goldfish. So maybe we want to change this. Maybe we just want to change this. I find the important thing about making Jinx's eyes look like hers is having the lower lid be darker and bigger. Because if you're doing something simple, simple style thing with just basically 2 lines and a circle. It's very simple, and it feels like Jinx when the dark line is, or the bottom line is darker. And then, you know, you can add some other shapes in there. You can have the eyebrows be a little bit more accurate to her, and it starts looking more like her, maybe. But we're not going into all that detail, are we? I'm trying to capture it in a simple way. In fact, I might just move on to another blank. Use some of the shapes that we found already and just try to capture more energy than we did the last time. Get the likeness a little bit more there. Often with this style, I like to start with body before head. Head is a pretty standard way of going about things, and I've been starting by drawing the head more, and some of my other work have been trying to get a little more proportionally grounded, and starting with the head there is good because I kind of base all my proportions around head size. But this, it's a lot more play it by ear and shoot from the hip. So just making a neck and then finding the head from there is how I do it pretty much every time. I think we might be able to push this shape more. Something like real funky, like this. Yeah, you feel me on that? That's fun. This is a fun shape. I do think narrower eyes may be the way to go here. Something I try to remind myself of when I'm live, and one of the reasons why I think I psych myself out about going live more is that I want to put something together that looks good really fast, when that's not really gonna happen all the time, because that's just not really how things work usually. You know, you got even something like this where all the effort that I put into the style is in pursuit of making it look like I just made it happen, and I just put my pen on the paper and then it appeared. But that's never really how it works. It's a slow process doing cartooning because it's a ton of trial and error. Didn't even know I streamed on YouTube. I mean, arguably I don't. I do it extremely infrequently, though I would like to more. pretty good at psyching myself out from doing things. And then I don't do them. Simple act of starting things over is something that I didn't like to do myself, and I especially didn't like to do on stream for some reason for a long time. Of just like erasing something that wasn't working to me. But I don't know why. There's probably a part of me that thought that erasing things was just boring to watch, or like an admittance of getting something wrong. And maybe it is an admittance of doing something wrong, but that's fine. That's how you draw. You figure things out by doing things that don't look very good over and over and over again. Sometimes when I'm watching artists stream, or VODs of them drawing whatever, I'll watch them draw something that I think looks good, and then they'll delete all of it and start again. And it's kind of confusing to me, because it feels like if something looks good, it should just look good to everybody. But when you're drawing your own stuff, you're not just a spectator to someone else doing art. You'll notice things, or things will just feel wrong a lot more often. It's part of why it can be kind of annoying to draw, because you're a really harsh critic of yourself. But something I like to keep in mind is that other people don't notice the mistakes you make as much as you do, generally. I had to spend a lot of time learning how to just trust people when they told me the stuff that I was making looks good. Because everything kind of, you'll notice all your mistakes, and it'll make you feel down about yourself. So you gotta trust other people's eyes. I don't love what I've got going on with the legs right now. We'll move on to a different part. We can try to start blocking in hair. Get those shapes down. Because of how shapes are very context-based things, they'll look different depending on what's going on. Moving on to some other part of your drawing is a good way to figure out whatever you were stuck on, because we'll have more context for how the legs should be shaped and their relative sizes and everything once we figure out what's going on up here. And also, it's just good to take breaks from things. Even if you're not taking a break from the drawing as a whole, taking a break from just one segment of the drawing is good practice. The look I have in my head going into this project is sort of a more wild, messed up looking Jinx. So we might not even do other facial features other than the eyes if it doesn't feel necessary. I want her to look wired. There's a few different ways that Jinx is known to look, but I think the thing that distincts her arcane version from her other games is just that there's obviously a lot more emotion going on there, a lot more fear. So I think having something that does something to tap into that is good. And it makes it seem more like the version of Jinx that I'm trying to draw. It's not an emotion I would go for League of Legends Jinx, because League Jinx is having a great time. Flipping the canvas is another thing I should have been doing more already. Make her say okie dokie. I'm not sure if we've got an okie dokie vibe going on so far, but maybe we'll run into something that necessitates some real okie dokie energy. Yeah, League Jinx definitely has some more okie dokie energy. And arcane things are often not very okie. I think her whole torso could be shorter. So if I want to make her limbs lanky, then having her body be shorter in comparison gives us more real estate for arms to feel long without actually making them super crazy. Those hands might feel a little bit not cartoony enough. Kind of creepy. Which could be okay. We're not exactly not going for creepy here. But I think they could be a little cuter. They're a little simpler. It might be a little bit too claw looking. Hands are in general something that I could use a little bit more study time on. Focusing on other stuff lately. Although right now, I took a break for the last few days because I was feeling real burnt out. And now I'm trying to ban myself from
studying for a little while because I think I'm kind of addicted to it. Certainly not the worst thing to be addicted to, but I do a lot more studying than I do actual drawing. Which means that often my knowledge is significantly stronger than my technical ability to put things on paper, which is not really where you want to be. It's right on that's like the art block period on the improvement cycle. It's just having better eyes than you have hands, essentially. I love improving. I love getting better at things, but I need to get better at giving myself the space to actually commit the things that I've studied to memory, because it'll feel better for my brain, and also I'll actually have art that I can show off more often. Which would be good. Making a Blue Sky account was my most recent realization that I have very little finished artwork that I like to show off. And a lot of my effort is going towards getting better at making things that I would be happy to show people. It's an important thing. I don't think I'm a bad artist, but it doesn't feel good when you go into your backlog and you don't have anything you want to show people. So I'm trying to fix that. She's got these gloves, sort of asymmetric gloves. One goes way further up her arm. At this point, I don't really want to look at this one anymore, because we got what we needed from it. Figuring out how to do the pigtails is interesting. Often I'll do it sort of like this, where I'm connecting these big chains, but I don't think big round shapes is really the play for this version of the character here. Maybe something a bit more like this could work better than finding segments to put the, I don't know what you'd call them, the little metal rings in. Now, do I like that at all? I don't know. Maybe. I like the feeling of it. I certainly don't like how it's posed. It's super boring. It's just really far out. Kind of afraid to overlap with anything else. Makes it look weird. So what we're gonna do is we're going to cut this out of the layer that it's on, that it's on its own, so that I can put it here, and then I can just erase bits of it. And now it can overlap. Another place that I see other artists out there could improve on is being clearly afraid of overlapping elements of their art, because let me move this over here so it can be more centered for a better viewing experience. But they're afraid to overlap different elements of their art because, I don't know, maybe they drew this funky hair or whatever, or maybe they drew a nice looking arm or leg or something and they don't want to cover it up, so they sacrifice the composition and the flow of their character's pose so that every part is separated and they're not overlapping. Which, you know, the nice part of that is you get to show off all the nice hands and butts or whatever that you drew. But often your piece is not looking better because of it. You gotta be willing to cover stuff up. Because you just can't, you gotta respect the flow, the visual flow, and the composition of it all. Oh, why is she scary AF? I wish she was nice. Me too. I think my problem with Arcane overall is that everybody was so mean to each other. If they had just fixed it, then I think everything would have been okay. And now she's got her big boot thing. I think I might want to capture the whole shape of both of the, I don't know what you'd call it, the lip of the boots. Like, this is sort of the idea of what her boots look like, more or less. I got these big tongues here. I guess the tongue would be, either way, you guys get what I'm saying. You got these big things. I think we might want to consolidate the two halves into one shape that wraps around the whole form, and then we might just be able to cut into it like that. Maybe that is good enough. Yeah, people on Arcane Twitter are often not the most impressive media critics I've ever seen. I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with a show not giving them a happy ending that's easier to understand without getting into any specifics of the ending, in case anyone hasn't seen it. I think it's an important thing to be ready for in art. It's just for things not to make you feel good all the time, and that not being a problem inherently. Some things can make you feel bad as a cheap way of getting emotion out of you, and that doesn't feel fun all the time. But I certainly don't think Arcane ever did that. I think you can find a lot of reasons for everything that is in the show to have happened. I think it's a very smartly written piece of art. All right, so I suppose this is kind of a rough draft. First draft, we'll call it, of how this Jinx could look here. I think it's pretty neat. Got some interesting stuff here. I'll slap some color onto it real quick so that we can do a better job of looking at and explaining things. Janet, what's up? How are you doing? Also helps us explore the shapes a bit more to put color onto them, because I kind of have to actually look at where there are real shapes I've made and where I'm relying too much on the audience's brain to fill in the gaps. Frankly, I don't even know what's happening with the hair over here. I think it's like this. That's what I have right now. I'm glad you're excited. I'd like to. I'm gonna try to stream more. This sort of style in general is not the main thing that I'm really working on at the moment, but it's something I would like to do a lot more because I have a ton of ideas for it in terms of making merchandise and offering something unique for people. I'm probably going to first just hop back into the Street Fighter of it all, specifically for the Street Fighter 6 roster, and try to adapt everybody into this hyper stylized, super deformed look so that I can get better at adapting rosters into it, because I think it's the most fun with super stylized stuff like this to be able to create a lineup of characters. As I was mentioning earlier with shapes are inherently interesting, but they get more and more interesting in context. And the more characters you draw in a style, the more interesting every decision you make is, you know. This Jinx is super lanky. Her arm goes all the way down here. But if we then drew another character whose arms were shorter like this, then just by comparison to the other shapes around her, Jinx's arms become even more lanky. And that's fun because characters just start to look more unique the more you have to compare them and contrast them with. But yeah, that's the idea for the next big EWAC drawing series, is stylizing the cast of Street Fighter 6 so that I can partially use them as a testing ground for creating lineups of characters, and then also because I would like to have the whole Street Fighter roster available as stickers or charms and whatnot for things like conventions or tournaments or whatever that I might go to. I would like to go to more stuff like that in 2025. We'll see what happens, but good to have goals. Drawing every League character by release is actually an idea that I've spent a lot of time thinking about. I think it'd be super cool. I certainly would not do it as a daily challenge because that's insane. I don't think I'll ever do a true daily challenge again because it's annoying and stressful. But just having a ongoing series of drawing every League character would be super sick because there's a bunch of them, obviously. And then it really depends on how or when I can figure out this other primary sort of style that I'm working on, using this pen and thin, nice lines. I don't know, when I can start to get an idea of how I like putting together my characters and the proportions and the general flow of line art, doing something like that would be really sick because it's a great way to get a ton of practice of using a style and using a brush, which I like. I like practicing. I like drawing challenges because it's just easier to get myself to draw every day or draw in a same way consistently if I make it into a game. Yeah, or I guess I could go with this whole Dota character from memory guide. Be like, oh, draw Chen, and I'm like, okay, yeah, Chen. He's like this, right? And he's got like a hat. He looks like that, and he's like go, and then like the wolf from Dota Forest jumps out and attacks for him. Looks like Garnet, yeah. Maybe Chen looks like Garnet. You ever think about that? Anyways, that's my drawing of Chen from Dota 2. If you ever wanted to know more about me, I guess a good way of getting a look into my brain is that Chen is the first Dota 2 character I could think of. Now do every other character? Okay, maybe after I do all the other drawings that I want to do. But we'll put Chen over here. Okay, let's explore this Jinx more.
One important thing for Jinx to do is to be able to shoot a gun. One of 3 guns. What the hell is that orange face emote? Ew. See, the minigun is a pretty, in my head, the most iconic Jinx thing. It's certainly not the most iconic arcane Jinx thing, though. I mean, really, it's her little zapper that is the most iconic weapon to her in that. If Jinx lived in America, the Wokies wouldn't let her use a gun. Well said. I'll think about that. Maybe I'll draw her reading a book, watching TikTok, more like it. Kids these days never read book, huh? Am I right, folks? And I'm not talking about the little guys from Star Trek. Oh my god. I think if I got that one right away, it wouldn't have been that funny to me, but whew. Ooh, taking a second was the best thing that joke could have done for me. Wow, that's good. That's good work on Funny Tool. Funny Tool, I personally call him. As a personal friend of mine, I refer to him exclusively as Funny Tool. But that's because I'm a normal guy who loves gamer tags more than human name. Anyway, I'm gonna draw her with the minigun now. Her minigun is called Pow Pow for anyone not in the know. Nice one, streamer. Good quote-unquote joke. What did I even say? How will I find now? Okay. Okay. Okay, I think we want the front leg to carry out this whole rhythm where the body bends. And this leg will be supporting the rest of the body.
These legs are too long. Her legs are relatively long for her body, but they're not like crazy. Having it break the form here to come down be good for the pose. It's possible. Having your calves be sort of weird, malleable shapes, I think, is a good thing for the energy of the design. But there's not a ton of energy in that. There needs to be more weight on this foot. One thing that might help is by adding the thing that is weighing her down, which is the minigun, which we don't have to put a ton of detail in, we just need to add in the shapes that make up the main body of the object. I'll have like it has like a handle up here for her to hang on to, and then the trigger system is up here. It's also got like a strap, which might be kind of important to the flow, the whole drawing. Maybe. Now we just need it to feel heavy. He needs it to feel like there is weight on that leg from a big old gun. I think we might want to push this further to sell that. The gun itself is too big at the moment. It still doesn't feel heavy to me, at least. think dropping it lower could be good. Everybody said it takes a lot of our body construction down with it, which is fine. Apologies if canvas flipping becomes disorienting. When I'm trying to figure something out, I tend to flip constantly. Either to draw from an angle that I enjoy more, or get something that I can align with my reference in my head easier. Or just to see things with different eyes, which is really the main reason that you should be flipping your canvas a bunch. In this pose, I think might make sense to get a mouth in there. I don't know how much of this is specifically working for me right now. Not super atypical. It's the first version of this pose that we're putting on the paper. Kind of feels a little bit fake to me. It doesn't feel like she's really holding something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sold. I'm not sold on it, but I do think plenty to learn from this. For one, I'd have more of a curve going this way. I think we want curve all the way down the body. We kind of have almost a line going down this whole length, but I think of something more like this. A curve like this would service us better. A little bit lost on where to start with it though. So maybe I'll tool around with this one more for a sec. We shape the back muscles weird like this. I like took a sharper turn up at the rib cage. Look at that, we have this whole cool little area at the side of the torso. So more or less I'm completely starting over on this thing. Not much of it was working for me. This isn't even what we were looking for. This is kind of an interesting pose. The more I explore with this pose, the more I feel like it might also kind of not be anything. One idea for where we could take this, though. is sort of my idea. The grumpy, arms crossed look. Alright, yeah, well this basically didn't turn into anything to that I was planning on it being. But this is kind of cute. It's kind of a cute look. Do I like this? Do I hate it? I don't know. It's hard to tell sometimes. I don't know if it reads that well. I think it's alright. It's interesting. Music's gone, but probably not gonna bother turning anything else on right now. I think I will head out after I throw color onto this. But I think I figured out some interesting stuff tonight. Things that I like with this nice hyper stylized Jinx. The design, as all good designs do, will develop over time, become something different. But as a starting point, I think there's some interesting stuff going on here. Got charisma, it's got some energy. Those are two good things to have. I think for a while, this is going to be what a lot of my stream work will be. Is just simple things like this. I got, as I've said, keep saying, I've got plans with this style. And the other style I'm working on, I'm certainly not. I've got it takes way too much brain power and active thinking from me to do on stream right now as I figure out keeping my proportions in line and my inking. But until then, if you guys enjoy watching me do this cartooning work, then I'll try to hop back on again sooner than last time. And I can draw more cartoons, either of Jinx, maybe some more arcane stuff, or we'll move on to the Street Fighters, as is my plan to get that Street Fighter 6 roster done. So these are our Jinxes that we did today. I think they're cute. There's a lot I like about them. And what else can I really ask for than to have a lot that I like, at least as a start. Alright, but until next time, I don't know if I'll stream at around this similar time again next time, or I might do it earlier in the day. Either way, I like doing it on YouTube because it saves the VOD for me, so just keep an eye out, check that out if you don't want to miss it. Alright. See you guys next time.